All right, fifth grade, we're diving into Unit 4. And here we have 4-1, multiplying decimals by powers of 10. Notice powers of 10 came back up because they want you to recognize that there's patterns with place value. So here's our standard, and our standard is 5.nbt2, and we're working with powers of 10, so I can explain patterns and numbers of zeros and products and the placement of a decimal point when multiplying or dividing a number by a power of 10. So that's what we're focusing on, the placement of a decimal point when multiplying by a power of 10. There's something really important when it comes to decimals. There's a shortcut and there's what's actually happening. So I'm going to talk you through the shortcut really fast because we're going to process it through what's actually happening. So let's say I have this number, 47. And I'm going to put a decimal point right there. So I have 47 hundredths because we have to remember our place value spaces, right? The shortcut I want you to remember is that when you're working with a whole number, a power of 10, so like 10 to the second power, and you're multiplying it, the decimal point is just going to move to the right, okay? And when you're working with multiplying this number times something like 100th, your decimal point is going to move to the left. So when multiplying by a whole number, you move to the right. When multiplying by a decimal, you move to the left. So I told you there was a shortcut. I made you write the shortcut down. Now we're going to go through a problem and we're going to process what's actually happening. So here we have 35 hundredths. And I like this chart because it puts our 3 in the tenths place and our 5 in the hundredths place. So you see that our decimal is right here and our number is after the decimal. So this number right here is less than 1 because it's part, okay? So we have 35 hundredths. If I was to multiply 35 hundredths times 10, we'll say it's 10 to the first power, what that would do to the number is it would take the numbers and it would shift the numbers. So do you see that it shifted the 3 from the tenths over to the 1 spot, and it shifted the 5 from the hundredths over to the 10th spot, and then it used a placeholder. So now 35 hundredths times 10 to the first power is actually 3 and 5 tenths, or 3 and 50 hundredths. Okay? Let's take a look at this again. If I multiply 3 and 50 hundredths times 10 to the first power, what that's going to do is it's going to take the numbers and shift them in a pattern formation in our place value chart, which is going to turn into the number 35 because our 3 went from our 1s place to our 10s place, and our 5 went from our 10ths place to our 1s place. And then these zeros here, you can either put them or you can leave them alone. Either way, this number right here is 35, whether you have the zeros or not. Okay, so when you are multiplying by the powers of 10, your numbers are shifting into the place value chart, and you'll notice 1 power of 10 gives you 1 0. An additional power of 10 gives you another 0 to what this was. So you can follow our zero patterns, and you can use your place value chart to shift those numbers. Let's go ahead and try another one. Here we have 78 hundredths. If I go ahead and I multiply that by 10 to the first power, what would that give me? 7 and 80 hundredths. If I multiply that again by 10 to the first power, what's that going to give me? 78 and 0 hundredths, or 78. Another way we need to look at this is like this. If I had this 78 hundredths and I wanted to multiply it by 10 to the second power, what would my answer be? Well, I know that I need to move 2 spaces, so I'm going to shift my numbers. My 7's going to come here, 1, and then 2. So my 7 would be here, and my 8 would be there. So it would be 78. So you don't always have to think of the place value chart in terms of 10 to the first power. You can think of it as 10 to the second power. And remember, what is 10 to the second power? It's 10 times 10. Okay? Unfortunately, you're not always going to have that place value chart there. So when you don't have a place value chart, you just need to use your number sense and bring it back to the place value chart in your head and what you know about your shortcut. So let's take the number 49 hundredths and let's multiply it by 10 to the second power. So I know I'm going to move it 2 spaces. So remember, when you are multiplying by a positive number and 10 to the second power is 100, that's positive. I'm going to take that decimal point and I'm going to move it 2 spaces. So 1, now it's in between my 4 and my 9, and 2, now it's after my 9. So 49 hundredths times 100 equals 49. You can put the zeros or leave the zeros. It doesn't really matter. Let's try another one. $63 hundredths times 10 to the third. So I'm going to take my decimal and go 1, 2, in the third spot, and there's nothing there, so I'm going to have to add a 0. So 630. Okay? Go ahead and try 965 thousandths times 10 to the fourth power. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that will give me 9,650. It's all wavy gravy, but remember we talked about if it's positive, the decimal's moving to the right. And if it's a decimal or less than 1, you're moving to the left. So let's give you a couple examples of that because you will come across that. So let's take 4 and 300ths and let's multiply that times 0.01, so 100th. And let's see what we come up with. What that's going to do is it's going to take this decimal and now it's going to move to the left. So it's going to go 1 space and 2 space. And where did I get my spaces from? Well, 1, 2. There's 2 spaces after the decimal. So 1 and 2, which means there'll be a 0 here. So I'm going to have a 0, 4, 0, 3. And I'm going to put my decimal point right there. Okay, we'll try another one. I know that's kind of confusing. We're going a little backwards on you. Let's do some side-by-sides or some problems on the same page. So if I have 3 and 63 hundredths and I multiply it times 1/10, I'm only going to move my decimal point 1 space because there's only one number after my decimal. So I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to move it to the left to right there. So my answer will be decimal point 363. Okay, now let's take the same number, 3 and 63 hundredths, and multiply it by 0 and 100th. So now I look at my number that I'm multiplying it by, and there's 2 spaces, so I'm going to move it 2 spaces. And so I will have 0, 3, 6, 3 with a decimal point. If I did it one more time and I took 3 and 63 hundredths times 1,000th, I would be moving 1, 2, 3 because there's 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. What do you notice? What do you notice? Well, I can notice that as I add one more digit over here, there's one more 0 in front of the number over here. So there's patterns to all of this that we can recognize and that can help us through it. This is the last one that we are going to do together. So here we go. We have 961 and 4/10 times 100th. So 2 spaces. So I'm going to move this guy over to 1, 2. That's going to give me 9 and 614 thousandths. I hope this helped you. We're going to go on and do our independent practice. And remember, both the shortcut and the reality of what we just learned. Remember, when we're multiplying by a positive number, we're moving to the right, and when we're multiplying by a part of a number or a decimal, we're moving the decimal to the left. All right? Good luck.